Good evening and a very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining the Football Out West show. It's episode 91 and my name is Tonci Prusak, and joining me as he does week in, week out, Craig Filer. Good evening, Craig. How are you?
Very well, Tonch. Very well. Nice and warm now. Been in last 20 minutes. I was up at St Albans this afternoon. I have to say, Jesus Christ, it was bloody freezing, mate. It was a horrible afternoon for commentating. But yeah, glad to be back in the warm now.
Well, I was down at George Cross, and a big shout out to Caroline Springs George Cross, our major season sponsor for this year. We honestly could not do anything without George Cross this year. Thank you so much to Mark Sultana, Lisa Duric, Tony Tanaglia, and the rest down there. But yeah, my little boy was playing down there this morning or this afternoon, and it was windy as all buggery. Windy as absolutely all buggery. I think the team sheet went flying, and it ended up in Taylor's Hill in the next suburb. But we've got a massive show tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a bit of a mystery show, Craig. We've got a mystery co-host because our man Steve Curtin will not be available for the month of June. He's got some. He's got a very busy personal life, let's call it that. Good old Steve, if you are tuning in tonight, big cheerio yourself. But we've got a very, very special co-host, Craig. We're going to introduce him very, very shortly. But we've also got he's been promoted as a mystery guest all the way from the UK. Let's talk a little bit about our mystery guest who's going to be coming on in the second half of the show.
Yeah, it's going to be great to speak to him because we haven't spoken to him for quite a while now, probably about a year or so. Yeah, he was originally a kitman, if I remember right. He was a kitman at Brisbane Roar.
Correct. He was indeed.
Yeah. He's a local Geelong boy, and he's now applying his trade, shall we say, in the UK in various roles. JESSIE MAES will be joining us just after 7:45 to talk about. He's been working actually with the Welsh squad for the last for the weeks. Yes. He was out in Poland with them this week, and he's going to have a chat with us about that and his role, and obviously how the mighty Cymru are going to get on this evening against Ukraine. Actually, can I just bring that up? Do you know that Wales? There's only going to be Wales, Belarus, Russia, and North Korea that are going to want Wales to win tonight. You know that, don't you?
Yeah,
everybody else is going to want Ukraine to win.
Ukraine, yeah.
It's going to be like it's going to like the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it? It's won before it's even started.
I think so. Oh, well. We just saw a shot up there. Adam Piddick, the Port Melbourne Sharks soccer club senior head coach, was due to come in. Unfortunately, he's had to pull out the last moment. Maybe we may be able to get him on next week, but hopefully, unfortunately, he's had to pull out last minute. But look, without further ado, it's time to bring our special guest co-host on tonight. There's a clue. FNR, Football Nation Radio. He's a man from Football Nation Radio. He's also a well-known NPL Victoria commentator, LACHY FLANNIGAN. LACHY, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for being our co-host in Steve Curtin's absence. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Much better for that rousing introduction. I understand that I have very big shoes to fill tonight in the absence of Steve Curtin. I don't know if you can ever really replicate what Steve Curtin is able to bring to a podcast. I hope you're not expecting me to run or anything like that. I don't have the fitness levels that he does, but I will do my very best to replicate his efforts. Thank you for having me on.
I think us three combined, if we had to try and do a baton relay race or something like that, we wouldn't be able to stay up with Steve. He's a crazy cross country runner. That's for sure. Lochy, mate, well done. Welcome on well done for joining us. Welcome on board. And it's a little bit of a trip down memory lane because we have in the past worked together, collaborated when we were on Football Nation Radio, and we still have fond memories and fond contacts there. You've got a new role there at Football Nation Radio, mate. Tell us a little bit about what's happening at Football Nation Radio.
Well, I'm just sort of in the absence of the great Josh Parrish, who I'm sure is a name that will be familiar to quite a few who have paid attention to this show over the years, of course. Famed panel pusher of the Football Out West show and Geelong Region Soccer Show back in the OG days. I'm sort of filling in for him at the moment. So, I'm on as many shows as I can every week, Monday to Friday. Making all the little small things happen, doing games on the weekend as well, all that sort of stuff. So,
What are some of the shows? Take us through some of the shows currently on offer at FNR.
So to take you through this week, for example, we've got our sort of regular discussion program. So Monday night, if you're into all things European football, myself and Nick Dubano will be going from 6 to 7, doing a big wrap of the internationals, and definitely the subject of Wales will come up, Craig, so don't you stress. And then 6 to 7 Tuesdays, myself and Jason Goldsmith on the Oz Football Hour. So there's your Australian football fix. Thursday with George Stanikian, State of Our Football Nation, which is sort of a wider look at the game, a more administrative side of things. So you'll find plenty of sort of interesting football admin, CEOs, that sort of thing to speak to on that program. And then beyond that, a lot of club shows as well. So on the Tuesday nights at the moment, the biggest and best club show we've got running is Paco Radio from 7 to 8. So all things Pascoe Vale, that's Nick Dubano and Lou Toner, who is one of, in my view, the best blokes in Victorian football, and more than worth an hour of your time every Tuesday, I would say. I don't support Pascoe Vale. I don't have a horse in the race, but I will listen to that show every week because Lou Toner's voice and the people he brings on make it very, very entertaining. So yeah, if you're asking or you're after just a place to get podcasts and live content that is like this show and like all the stuff you do, passionate and dedicated to Australian football and giving the game the coverage it deserves, then you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on your preferred podcast platform, all the usual places.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. And you cover a lot of games every week with the NPL, the NPLW as well. So, what better person than to fill those gigantic shoes of Steve Curtin's than yourself, Lochy. So we welcome you on board. Craig, last week, unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, one of our biggest biggest viewed shows, certainly the biggest one this year, and for a very good reason. It was a tribute to our late, great, loyal fan, Maxi Santich. Mate, you've got a little bit of news as well about Maxi Santich this week as well.
Yeah, I made contact with Maya, his lovely wife, on Monday, just to obviously pass on my condolences from not only from football out west, but to everybody in the wider football community. And I had a lovely message back from yesterday, on Friday. And I'll read it out because it is a nice one to read. And it just says, "Hi Craig, thanks so much for reaching out. I can't thank enough for everything you guys have done and keep doing for our family. We will be forever grateful. Max will absolutely love the Football Out West show and would never miss a minute of it. He always spoke so highly of you all. Oh, sorry, guys. Spoke so highly of you all, Craig. Life will never be the same without him, but I'm sure he is watching the show from above. May he rest in peace." Which I thought was a really nice message from her. Obviously going through a very, very trying time at the moment for the family. I think it's actually been posted today that the funeral the funeral arrangements, which will take place a week Tuesday. And there it is, popped up for anybody that would like to go and pay their respects. It's next Tuesday, the 14th, at 22 Fitzgerald Road in Sunshine West. And just finally on this as well, Tonci, they set up a GoFundMe page for the family, with a goal of trying to raise, I think $20,000 was the initial starting figure that they wanted to get to. And as of this afternoon, I was at St Albans this afternoon, and as of 2:30 this afternoon, it was up at an amazing $103,000, which by any stretch of the imagination is a fantastic achievement, and just goes to show, doesn't it, how the football fraternity and the community can get together when something like this happens, and it's certainly going to go a long way to helping the family out through this horrible time for them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the funeral details again. For those of you familiar, it's the St. Leopold Mandic Church. It's the Croatian church in Sunshine West on Fitzgerald Road. It's a massive car park. It's a huge church right next to a massive hall there. So lots of room for everyone. And then refreshments afterwards will be held at where else but the St. Albans Saints Dinamo Soccer Club there in Fox Street. If you haven't ever been to that club, if you haven't ever been to that church, here's your opportunity to do so. And I'm sure, like I said, unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, it's not something that we're happy that last week was our biggest viewed show, but it was because of exceptional circumstances. And to everyone that did tune in, everyone that has seen the Football Out West special tribute to Maxi Santich, and also our sister podcast, the Oz Crows Soccer Show's tribute as well. Very touching. And look, I look at the chat, Craig. I look at the comments there. Same old faces there. There's Vladimir Zetovic. There's Santino Mamone. There's Brenton Ray. Even Steve Kearns popped up. He's obviously watching it. We always have a heap of people from the George Cross Football Club and the wider football community. But no Maxi Santich, and that's going to be sadly missed. We really, once again, on behalf of everyone involved with this show and all of our podcasts, to the Gospich Bears, the St. Albans Saints, and to Maxi Santich's wife Maya, the little girl as well, Zara. Our deepest condolences. We're going to take a very, very short break. As we said, George Cross, they are our major sponsor. We really, really are very, very grateful for everything that Caroline Springs George Cross have done this year. Here's a couple of words from our sponsors. And when we get back, we're going to be talking Young Socceroos, NPL, VPL, state leagues. We've got the lot. The whole weekend roundup. Don't go away, folks. We'll be back very, very shortly.
Where will you find authentic Maltese cuisine? At Georgie's on Vista, in the heart of Fraser Rise. We have a menu to suit everyone, which includes kids and seniors meals, and a cocktail list that will need you to come back several times to get through. Our specialty nights are a big hit. Tuesday is $20 Palmer night with a selection of Palmers to choose from. Kids eat free Wednesday night. With every paid adult meal, you get one free kids meal. Thursday is Maltese night. Check out the Maltese specials on our specials board. And Friday night we have happy hour between 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Be sure to book your table to avoid disappointment. Bookings can be made via our website, georgesonvista.com.au. See you at George's on Vista. You'll find us at Caroline Springs, George Cross.
Rightio, welcome back to the Football Out West show. Our first port of call is the Young Socceroos, Craig. What's happening with the Young Socceroos?
Yeah, well, they had a game. This is the second game of three in the initial stages of the Under-23 Asian Championship. And it didn't start very well for them overnight, with a sending off there for the Adelaide player. His name escapes me for a minute because my notes have been all mixed up. So bear with me. I'm sure Lockie
can help.
Cassini Yengi.
Cassini Yengi.
I didn't know it.
Now, Before we go, well, we'll look at that, and perhaps we will go back to the sending off slightly, because I know you've put something up on Twitter today about that, Lockie. But let's talk about the goal from he's just unbelievable. QL, what a goal that is! How Lockie?
Now he's going to look at this incredible Lockie.
I mean, I the reason I'm stunned into silence, despite you both calling my name, is that there are no words. There are no words for a goal like that. I mean, we've seen Scorpions scored by Australian players a number of times over the years, not least Ben Garuccio in the A-League men's season. But that one, I almost think that one's the best of the lot. I mean, McGree, yes, his one was good, but it was pure fluke. But that was intentional. He completely meant that. And it was just absolutely spectacular. I mean, the commentator described it as one of the goals of the tournament so far. I'm pretty sure it is the goal of the tournament. We can call it.
I think Brenton Speed has already got it down for the goal of the season, hasn't he? Already. So that was a fantastic strike. And do you know what makes me laugh with it as well? There's a clip that he put on Twitter. Have we got that, Tonch? Or
yeah, that's coming up shortly. So just bear with me.
There was just before you put that up, there was a commentator asked some questions about him, and the question was, he said, how was the goal? He said, I was running forward and saw the ball go behind me, and I just thought, yeah, let's do it. In an interview, he said after the match, he said, I couldn't do anything else, so I just did it and it came off. And then the commentator asked, out of 10, how much would you give? He said, I'd give it a 5. That's normal for me. Just give me the ball and I'll do it again.
Well, here's a little quote from the man himself. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Shout out to all the Aussies back home. Appreciate all the support. Tough game. The red card, but we moved still. Happy to get a goal. Don't ask me how I done it. It's just a regular thing, but good to come out with a draw. Should have got the 3 points, but but we move for next game and we'll be prepared. And cheers. Thanks for coming. Enjoy. Have a good night. Cheers.
There you go. Have a good night. Cheers. That's brilliant, isn't it? Fair dinkum.
What a fantastic character, Lockie. Is it? We sometimes, don't we? We look at professional football players and think sometimes they're a little bit untouchable and a little bit, out there and nobody. But this kid he's just raw talent, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the best thing about it all, you mentioned his abundance of personality, especially in an Australian professional game where players can be quite cut off, can be quite cold. And I know I speak to a lot of them. He is just so open, raw, down to earth. But even better than all of that is there's not just one quote. Alu catches all the headlines. He's the one scoring that amazing goal. But following in his footsteps very soon, and maybe even better than Alu, which is crazy to say. We've seen what Garang has done for the Central Coast Mariners. Teng and Didi are both coming through the ranks as well. And apparently the youngest, which I think is Didi, is somehow meant to be the best of them. And they all say that. So we're talking about a generation of qual names who are going to give what looks like something pretty spectacular to Australian football. And the best part about it is for them, that they all seem convinced that it's normal. While we all marvel at these things that they're doing, they're like, all of them say, this is just what we do. And I don't know whether there's something or was something in the water when they were growing up in the Goulburn Valley, but as an Australian football fan, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, look, I spoke to Craig Carley many times. He's the coach of Goulburn Valley Suns, and he was singing his praises 3, 4, 5 years ago when he was coming through. I think he played at 15 in the senior team, and he was telling us how good this kid was. And look, the world's their oyster. We saw after the Masters game, the Barcelona game the other way, the impact his younger brother had, and what Xavi was saying about him after that game. So. The world's their oysters, and it's fantastic to see characters like that in football.
Absolutely. Guys, let's move along to the NPL Victoria competition. It's hotting up. It is hotting up. There was an
Not this afternoon, it wasn't.
Well, let's talk about some of the games that were held on the weekend. Starting off with the original derby, Melbourne Knights versus South Melbourne. Lockie, take us away.
Yeah, well, to the shock of quite a few, Melbourne Knights pulling off a massive, massive upset over South Melbourne in the dying embers of a game. South Melbourne thought they'd rescued a point, which you just saw from that goal from Max Mikela there. He's the opener. They thought they'd rescued a point, but in the late reaches of stoppage time, Gian Albano pulled out something from absolutely the top draw. I mean, not Scorpion style, not mimicking Alu Qual, but yeah, I mean, this goal speaks for itself.
Well, he picked the ball up at his own half, Lockie, originally. We don't see that in the clip, but he's gone past 2 or 3 players and absolutely rocketed into the top corner, and you can see what it meant to everybody there. 95 minutes on the clock to pull out the winner in the as you said, the original derby.
Jess, what you got to understand, this as Michael Lynch and Joey Lynch, they were commentated father and son on Friday night. Michael Lynch still pines for the old nostalgic days, and he made lots of references about the old NSL days. You know, very rarely would a derby such as that attract less than 10,000 people. And you know what? The form book totally goes out the window when these two sides meet. And look, you know, the Knights, you know, they went into this pumped up. You know, South Melbourne in recent years have really had the wood on the Knights. But you know what? Like I said, the form book goes out the window, and that's exactly what happened. Now, Craig, you were at this game.
Just on the commentary there of the Lynch duo, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, get yourself on and just have a listen to it. It is absolutely hysterical. You got Michael Lynch, who's been about for a long time, very dry with his sense of humour, but it really is a great listen if you haven't had a chance to listen to it.
Yeah. Now, Craig, we're talking about the Green Gully Port Melbourne game. You and Steve commentated that game, and here's another great game, Dandenong City and Hume City from last night. Your take on...
go back to the Green Gully one, or?
I'm not too sure.
Okay, don't worry. We could just talk about it as the goals are going through. But I have to say, it was a freezing cold night on Friday, but the football definitely made up for that. I have to say, two qualities. Probably one of the best first halves of football I've seen for a long time, guys. It was technical, it was tactical, the movement. I mean, we talk about football being quick, but this was on another level on Friday night, and it was a fantastic game of football in which Port Melbourne convincingly in the end won the game. But it was a very, very good performance from both sides. But Port Melbourne were very good and in their win.
And Lockie, this is Eastern Lions up against Altona Magic. Another great goal there. We've seen some fantastic goals.
Look, it was a really, really tight game, this one. Eastern Lions, you know, fighting against the drop, still battening down the hatches against Altona, and it took Naeem Rahimi to pull that chip out of the top drawer, as we see Nick Kalmar pull something out of the top drawer as well. Can I move on to this game? Because this
you did
between I did do this game alongside Ed Gooden as well, and Dandenong City pulling out the most important win of their season, just their second of the year, their first in, I think, 92 days against the opponent whom they won their first game in Hume City. And they haven't been able to get much fortune this season, Hume, but as you'll see with this goal from Nick Kalmar, it just worked out for them. Now, it was blowing an absolute gale on the day. I think look, I know Nick Kalmar is capable of spectacular things. I think the wind did help him there. But as I said, sometimes in life, you need some luck. And it was delivered to Dandenong City there. And look, at the start of that game, we were talking about potentially Hume stretching out their lead in front of Dandy City, away from the relegation zone, out to 8 points. But now, after that
how important is that win?
I said what I said on the call. I'll repeat it. If they are to, after the Nick Kalmar goal went in, particularly because of how spectacular it was. If they are to survive the drop, they will look back on that goal and they will say, that was the moment. This was the moment things turned, because that is the kind of out of the fire result, the kind of goal that gives you belief that you can do it. Because like I said, it was going to be an 8-point gap if Hume won. Now it's just 2. And the mid-season window is around the corner. We know Dandenong City historically like to bring in high-profile players potentially to help their, safety, fight for safety. So we could see that again. But 2 points is manageable. 8 points, I would have been drawing a line through them. But 2, absolutely doable. So that is a huge, huge win. And the fact that they're going to be going through the rest of the season with a man who returned last night as well in their captain, Steven Topalovic, who made such a massive, massive difference, that is going to give them a lot of belief that they can do it. Whether or not they can is a big question, but they'll believe that they can.
Yeah. Sorry,
Craig,
Tonci,
you commentated this game. Avondale and St Albans. You commentated game. Did you want to go through that?
This was to be honest, it was a one-way game. Avondale do what Avondale do very well and move the ball around. They're the best in the league at it. They have the highest pass rate of any team in the NPL. In fact, they got 3,000 more passes. As a little thing for you, they had 3,000 more passes than their opponents this afternoon this season. Now, when you put that into perspective, 3,000 passes, it's enormous, isn't it? It's not 300, 3,000 passes better off than the opposition. They were head and shoulders from the start. Granted, St Albans were 9 players out today. There was a number of youngsters that came through. I think they had a 16-year-old come on in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Oh wow! So there's four or five under 21s and a couple of youngsters on the bench that had an opportunity, but it was men against boys today, to be fair.
And the Greek derby, as we can see there, Lockie, Heidelberg United and Bentley Greens. And did you see the chap in the black on the sidelines? Was that the coach? He was going absolutely nuts.
No, he's a very... I was actually wondering the same thing. So I messaged a few of my fellow Victorian footballing experts. Apparently, he's just a very, very passionate Heidelberg fan and has been for apparently 20 plus years. He's been riding the fence, giving his very exuberant celebrations. And look, the NPL Victoria is far better for having those kind of people in the game.
Now, just can I ask a question of you, Lockie? Obviously, you've watched and commentated on a lot more of the NPL games than I have over the years. Is the NPL becoming a stronger league now? We see a lot of players coming from Queensland and Western Australia coming into Victoria to play. Is the league becoming stronger and stronger? For me, it is. You look at the league there, and between sort of third, fourth, right down to St Albans have all got and even Melbourne Knights have got an opportunity to get into that top 6.
Yeah, look, I think it's hard to refute. I mean, you look at somewhere like, I think that the closest competitor would probably be NPL New South Wales, where there is a very, very tight title race going on at the moment. Obviously, we've got one too, only between 2 teams at the present moment, whereas New South Wales 4 or 5. But I think the actual, like you said, Craig, going all the way down to Melbourne Knights in 10th, 11th spot, everyone there is in with a chance of making the finals. And it's also the fact that we've been able to siphon off some of the best talents from other state NPLs into Victoria to stockpile talent, I think is a real sign of the quality of the league. And also how some players who have really dominated leagues in other states, NPLs in other states, have come here and not done quite as well. I mean, Steve Sokol, for example, I do think he's a very good player, but he scored, I think, 17 goals in the NPL Western Australia last year, and has only managed 2 this year. He's still been good, but he just hasn't been able to get that same output. And I think that sort of stuff does speak to the quality that we've got on offer in this league. And fans of Victorian football, particularly with the A-League men's season not being on, I dare say we're much better for it.
Well, I tell you what, next year I'm excited, being a Geelong boy, obviously, that there could be a Geelong team coming up in the competition, in the NPL competition next year, and we're going to have a look now at the NPL 2 competition. First of all, Craig, Manningham United Blues against Goulburn Valley Suns. You mentioned the Goulburn Valley Suns before. They're really struggling, and they look like they're going to be relegated to NPL 3, but going through some of the results there over the weekend. The NPL 2 competition, you've been sort of looking at the NPL 2 quite a fair bit over the last few months. Let's go through some of that.
Yeah, Friday night, the big game up at CB Smith Reserve, which was a home bay. Ironically, it was a home game for both of them, with Moreland Zebras being defeated 3-0 by Pasco Vale, Carter Foster and Hosoi, and Talarico scoring for Pasco. Good result for Pasco, keeps them in contention at the top of the table. We'll have a look at that shortly. Werribee, they're a team that's on a dismal run at the moment, Tonch. Lost 9 games on the row, and their last win coming in round 3. They now conceded 25 goals out of those 9 games and scored just 6, with no goals in their last 5 outings. Which is definitely relegation fodder unless they can turn it around very, very quickly. I have noticed on some of their social media posts that there's a lot of youngsters from the under-18s being given opportunities. So I'm not sure whether they're struggling for players, but it's certainly a club that's on the decline this year. Because they started really well actually, and after round 3, they were top, I think, but they haven't won.
They were 3. No, that's right. Lucky, you're going to say something?
Can I mention something about that, Craig? You talk about their poor run of form, where abysmal run of form, unfortunately.
It is abysmal,
that's pushed them down into the relegation, to being relegation fodder. I don't know if you guys know this, because I didn't either until very recently, but the NPL 2 and 3 is actually not going with just a 2 up, 2 down system this year. So 3rd and 4th in the NPL 3 will have, as I understand, pro-rel playoffs against 3rd and 4th bottom. So even if Werribee are in the spot where they are now, they're still under threat from the likes of what's the top 4 in the NPL 3 at the moment.
Melbourne City, Western United,
Western Victory, Preston. So none of those teams are safe by any stretch of the imagination. It's the 2 direct drop spots are bad. Obviously, they're the worst, but even those other 2 to finish in 9th or 10th would make you pretty uncomfortable, and Werribee look like maybe they're on course for that alongside Manningham.
Yeah, isn't that good, Steve Lockie, that we're talking about there's a playoff now in NPL
Absolutely.
2 and NPL 3. I think it's fantastic that there's that. It goes right to the end, even if you're relegation candidates and you're down, relegated, there's still 2 or 3 teams above you that can still be dragged into that, and it's going to make it really interesting come the last few weeks of the season.
Now, what makes it really interesting? So next year, the NPL competition will be 14 teams, the NPL 2 will be 14 teams, and the NPL 3 will be 14 teams. Now, I was speaking recently to someone from the Geelong Soccer Club who are in NPL 3, and they actually said to me, now I'm not sure if they're mistaken or not, the 3rd in NPL 3 will take on the 12th, so the bottom place team in NPL 2, and the 4th will take on the 11th. Now, so it's basically not automatic relegation, but they're obviously expanding it. Now, I'm not sure if so this is the thing. The clubs themselves, a lot of people don't really know what is going on until, the season has already commenced, and we're still none the wiser in many cases. And I know with the juniors have recently had gradings and what you're not, and clubs weren't aware until even a few days before what was going on and things like that. Now we'd like to know that, and we tried to get someone from Football Victoria on recently. They're very, very understaffed and very very busy. But Brenton Ray's our man. He knows everything, and he's at the moment he's tuning in. And if Brenton can shed some light, no one can. If he can't, no one can. But that's what I understood it. But either way, there's going to be 14 teams in NPL 2 next year, 14 teams in NPL 3. So will be interesting to see. Craig, one of your old clubs, North Geelong, on the weekend, they are just blitzing it at the moment, doing really well. Now, here is 16-year-old Noah Skoko, the son of Josip Skoko, scoring his maiden senior goal. Look at the poise. Look at the calm. There he goes. He traps it and then lobs the Philip Petrovsky, the keeper there for Northcote City.
Wow.
Ridiculous. A 16-year-old kid doing that. Now, watch this goal from Nelson Salvatore. We talk about freaky goals. This is North Geelong's second goal. So they are doing really well at the top of the NPL 2 standings. Coach Stuart Begg there is doing a great job. Craig, you've got a really good insight into the operations of this club. Look at that. Look at that. Freaky or what?
They all count, Tom.
They all count. Have they got what it takes to be very competitive in NPL Victoria, or will they need to really recruit pretty strongly? Caleb Mikulic, ex-Melbourne Knight, look at him, leading goal scorer in the NPL 2 competition with 12 goals. 3-0.
Yeah, look, I think from the club's point of view, of course, they'd love to get promoted. You know, it probably wasn't on their radar quite this early. They have got they've got a unique squad in. You know, they're all the boys are from Geelong, which, you know, creates that culture. I was with Stewie just last week, having a coffee, and we're talking football as we do regularly, and I speak to him every weekend. Normally just to congratulate him. Now I don't bother saying anything else because there's nothing else to say. They're a very, very young squad. They're gaining experience all the time. They've got some fantastic kids coming through the system. They've got a great set of coaches that are developing their younger players. The future's very bright for them. You know, yes, there is the Noah Skokos of this world, and you know he's a freak by nature. You know, he's a quality player, a good lad. He's going to go to great things. So absolutely guarantee he's going to go to great things, and we'll be talking about him in the future for sure. But look, for North, things are going very well for them. I'm not gonna say anything derogatory about them, or if they keep winning, they're getting closer and closer, and you know that's all I can hope for the club, because it is a fantastic football club, fantastic heritage, and it'd be great to see them in that. Imagine that next year, three Croatian derbies next year if Dandenong City managed to stay up. That would be something, wouldn't it, Lockie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. They're always exciting. I'd love to have another.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break, gents. When we return, we're going to look at NPL 3, State League 1 men's competition, and also the NPLW and the VPLW as well. Lots to come on the Football Out West show. Don't go away.
Looking for a space for your next function? At George's on Vista, our function room caters for all types of functions. Milestone birthdays, special religious occasions, work functions, hens or bachelor nights, baby showers, or whatever reason you decide is a good idea to get together with family and friends. Contact our friendly staff who will help you put together a menu that will suit your special occasion. Inquiries can be made via our website, georgesonvista.com.au. George's on Vista, in the heart of Fraser Rise. You'll find us at Caroline Springs, George Cross.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. Brenton Ray, he is the man. He is the newsman. I tell you what, he comes up with everything good. And he's said, I think it's the 11th and 12th place teams in NPL 2 that do go into promotion relegation matches against the 3rd and the 4th place teams in NPL 3, with 2 spots basically in next year's NPL 2 competition. Awesome. Well, there you go. Lucky, let's talk about NPL 3. Really interesting. We've got a lot of the academy clubs happening there. They're doing really well. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tight race for those sort of top 4 spots hasn't changed, and it all kicked off on Friday night with one of the biggest games of the season. I think it's fair to say the derby between. I was there alongside famed panel pusher Josh Parrish for Preston Lions against North Sunshine Eagles. And yeah, Preston got off to a flying start in this game, scoring inside the opening 5 minutes. Connor Bell putting it on a platter effectively for Chris Davies, who I think in the league has scored on 5 goals against separate fixtures in this derby against North Sunshine. So a real thorn in the side of his opponents. From there, North Sunshine actually played pretty well. They managed to wrestle themselves back into the contest, particularly after the halftime whistle. They were really pushing. They looked odds on to get an equaliser, but unfortunately for them, as you saw in that clip, they got caught out on the break. Fullback Aiden Sadiku got sort of caught pushing forwards. Preston attacked the space in behind, and then Connor Bell with that looping header over the top of Zames Zanelli. And Preston, who had gone the previous 3 games without a win and a pretty unsavoury loss the week before to Box Hill, get a massive result, and sets them up very, very nicely for the remainder of the season. Unfortunately, it didn't gain them anything in terms of getting into the top 2 spots, because Victory and City both won their games against Whittlesea and Doveton respectively. But as you can see, I mean, the top 4 spots separated by just 2 games, and then the top 3, it's absolutely neck and neck.
What was the crowd there on Friday?
Oh, I would have said it would.
Was it a healthy crowd, or?
It wasn't as good as I think maybe a few people might have been expecting. To be fair, the weather was really horrendous, as it was all weekend, and I think we saw that impact a lot of fixtures, not just this one, maybe the original derby as well. But it was probably still a good 1,000, and we all know the kind of noise that the Preston Lions Ultras bring to every game. And they did in this one. They were a constant noise for the full 90. And I think in the tough moments, particularly after the second half, where I said early on North Sunshine were fighting back, their noise just helps the team lift to another level. And no other team really in the league can lay claim to that.
Now, we haven't had a chance to get up there, but I must get up there on a Friday evening at some stage. And
it was my first time there, and I can speak very highly of the experience. I'll definitely be going again.
Yeah, for sure. Good.
Looking at some of the other results, Melbourne Victory 3-1 over Whittlesea. Western United, as you mentioned, 1-0 over Nunawading City. And what was the Melbourne City result?
I believe
1-0 to Melbourne City.
1-0 over Doveton.
Yeah. So a lot of those results, the Melbourne City and the Western United games are not included in there. So Western United obviously jumping into 3rd spot with 23 points. Melbourne City have pulled away now with 29 points. So a good 5 points clear of 2nd place, Melbourne Victory. Preston Lions on yesterday, I mean, obviously we know with their crowd, with their infrastructure, with their history and the supporters, they certainly deserve to be in a higher division. But from what you've seen and what you've seen some of the games of Preston and particularly yesterday, have they got what it takes to even if they were to go through the qualification process, would they be able to get through into NPL 2 next year?
I do think so. And to be honest, I think irrespective of results and that sort of thing, they deserve to, because the amount of investment they've put into that club. I mean, I went there for the Lions Den, which is another club show we have on Football Nation Radio on Thursday, to see their new pavilion and the club rooms they've got. They are genuinely, it's pro level standard facilities that they've got there, and pro level fans. And a lot of they've been able to attract a lot of high quality players because of those off field benefits. And I do think that in a promotion playoff, for example, I do think that those kind of players could give them an edge against a lower NPL 2 side. But the big test for Preston over the next few weeks is actually to beat the sides below them, because against the other top 4 opponents, top 5, if you include North Sunshine, they're undefeated, haven't lost a single game against any of those good teams. It's been the teams in the bottom half of the table that they've dropped important points against. So they play Springvale White Eagles this coming Friday at home. So that's a big chance for them. And that's also kind of the fact that they can play against those better teams is what gives me hope if they can make it into a playoff spot, because we know they can sort of punch up. It's punching down where they've seemed to fall short this season.
Yeah, and then they have the journey down to Geelong to play Geelong Soccer Club. So that'll be another big fixture for them.
That'll be a great night, because two Macedonian clubs, obviously. That'll be, I think there'll be a lot of people in the house for that one.
Big crowd expected, no doubt,
Just
for that one as well.
But just on that as well, just while we finish on NPL 3, if you look at those teams there, the top 4, people talk about, Melbourne City shouldn't be in the 3. The reality is, as a football nation, wanting the best young players, we need Melbourne City, Melbourne Victory, Western United, Preston Lions in NPL, not NPL 2 or NPL 3. We need them in NPL, don't we? That's the holy grail, isn't it? That we need these youngsters playing in the highest level in Victoria that they can.
Having said that, Craig, I think they should get there of their own merit, and
Absolutely.
I think they need to earn it. They can't just be given a free ride. And I think this is good. What Football Victoria has done, that they have to work their way up through the system, and in a way, it's probably, to me, a little bit embarrassing that they're not in a higher division as we speak. But look, they're getting their acts together as far as their academies and their NPL junior style academies as well, and they will be a powerhouse. Lochy.
Well, again, I think that kind of goes back to the question that Craig raised earlier, like how strong is the NPL Victoria? Because you look at all those A-League youth teams, and they are in the 3rd division of state football here. You can contrast that to New South Wales, for example, where yes, Western Sydney, Newcastle Jets are in those lower level competitions, but Sydney FC are in that promotion. Are in that fight for the title in New South Wales. So I think that is maybe not the most reliable indicator, but it does still give you an idea of how tense and tight the competition is here across the 3 leagues. And yeah, I think I agree with you, Tonci. If they are going to get back to that top flight where they'll feel that that's going to be the style of football that helps the young players the most, they'll get there on their own merit.
And of course, we've also got the B League that potentially is going to happen as well, which is going to change the
return of the National Youth League as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Gents, let's move along now to women's football. Lochy, NPLW. This doesn't take into account any of the results from this week, except for, I think, Bayside United and Box Hill, round 10 being played this weekend. You've seen quite a fair few of the NPLW competition. Give us a bit of a rundown what's happening with the NPLW.
Yeah, well, it was a big weekend, really, because we have a new ladder leader, despite what this graphic is currently telling you, because Calder got a 1-0 win in a very tight encounter on Saturday afternoon over FC Bulleen Lions. We always knew that was going to be a close game, but Calder have continued their really strong run. I think it's 6 consecutive games now that they've won and haven't conceded a single goal throughout that stretch. So it's just an unbelievable, as purple of a purple patch as you could possibly hope to be. They've been keeping Heidelberg honest in the top spot, and that pressure they've been putting on Heidelberg has finally paid off, because the Burgers went down quite surprisingly today, actually, to FV Emerging out in Knox at the Regional Football Centre. Look, it was wet and wild, and I think that maybe...
Now, you've got a very interesting story to tell about this, Lochy, haven't you? A personal story about this particular fixture. Tell us about it.
Can I just jump in there before you? And I said I'll leave it for you guys to chat about this one, but can we just go back to that table a second before Lochy does have his piece? So you're going to talk about the fixture on Wednesday night, Lochy, where we spoke off air about South Melbourne, and they had their strongest squad possible that they could have against George Cross in the Caroline Springs George Cross in the Nike Cup. Now they're in 6th place on 9 points, and they had their strongest side out, and they put 10 past Caroline Springs George Cross, but you got Heidelberg then on 21 points. There's a massive gap, isn't there? Is the quality that much different between your 6th and 1st?
Well, I mean, I think something particularly in the case of South Melbourne and FE Emerging that has to sort of be taken into consideration when you're looking at league places and that sort of thing is obviously FE Emerging are a youth side. Their oldest player is 22. Sarah Kane she's my age. Is not old. South Melbourne have really taken a very young focus to this season. under Sam Young. Again, oldest player is Cat Goff, 26 years of age. Like it's a youthful squad. And look, it's taken those younger teams maybe a bit of time to gel, but we are seeing them start to put it together and get results. I mean, South Melbourne, terrible start to the season across the first 5 games, but they're undefeated now over the last 5, and they got a win over Alamein that puts them within touching distance of that top 4. FE emerging. Have they had some poor games this season? Absolutely, but they've got a win against Heidelberg, the ladder leaders, who had just lost just 2 games prior to this point, and they got a draw against FC Bulleen Lions. So they've taken points off 2 of the top 3 teams. So yes, maybe there is a distinction between the sort of top 5 and the rest, but I do think that as players get more minutes in the legs, that gap is closing, and there's sort of, reasons that there might be a difference between really experienced squads of mature players and younger youth-focused sides like South and FE emerging.
Well, if we turn our attention to next week, before that, Lockie, we've got off the subject. What's your little story about today's game with Heidelberg and FV emerging?
Well, I think that I'm remembering my own personal anecdote correctly. I was considering, alongside another FNR colleague and sort of budding commentary starlet in Pakua Frimpong, to head to this game at the Knox Football Centre. And I have to admit, after back-to-back nights of freezing cold weather at the 2 games I did, I can't remember the last time I was as cold as I was at BT Connor on Friday. It felt like I was visiting my family in Edinburgh, which is very rare that I say that in Australia. I just felt terrible, and so I looked out the window, I saw the rain coming down, and I said, sorry, Pakura, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And that's why you never say no to a game. The lesson here is never turn down a game, because it ended up being a thriller, a big upset win for FE emerging, and
there you
unfortunately didn't get to be there. So that's why you never turn down an opportunity.
You're too busy getting ready for this one. Turning our attention to next week with the NPLW.
Sorry, Tonci. Before
go
on, carry on, and then I'll ask Lockie shortly.
All right, so looking forward to next week, we've got a couple of big games. Box Hill United at home to Alamein. South Melbourne at home to FV emerging. So that's going to be a big battle there for 6th spot. Bulleen Lions then hosting Bayside United. But the big one next Saturday at Olympic Village at 3 o'clock. Heidelberg United taking on Calder United, and here's a great gilt-edged opportunity for the Burgers to redeem themselves after today's unfortunate result for them. They've got a chance now to do something about Calder United's red-hot run. Craig, over to you.
Yeah, just want to touch on. We touched on it just before we came on air, Lockie, and I mentioned Melbourne Knights there and George Cross, and you were commentating down at Lakeside Stadium on Wednesday for the Nike FA Cup, and you wanted to have a quick chat about that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all know what the result was in that game. 15-0 the final scoreline, but I think I wanted to, despite the result, give a massive shout out to George Cross, which I know is not an unpopular opinion to have on this particular program. But yeah, I just wanted to say, while the result might not have gone their way on the pitch, and let's put it into context, we're talking about an NPL 1 team who are undefeated in their last month, coming up against a State League 3 side, the only State League 3 side to make the quarterfinals, by the way. That is a massive gap. I think it's 5 or 6 divisions separating 5 leagues separating these sides. So while the result might not have gone their way on the field, I think that Georgies deserve massive credit for the way that they carried themselves in this game off the pitch, as well as on the pitch, because they did try hard despite the scoreline, but particularly off the pitch, because I know that training was called off so that people could come and attend this game, give a heap of support, to the Georgies girls as they played at Lakeside Stadium. And there were more Caroline Springs fans there than there were South Melbourne fans. And I can tell you now, it wasn't a contest. And so to be able to bring that level of traveling support to a women's game is a massive, massive, massive achievement. And beyond that as well, they got to have a great night out at Lakeside. I know Mark Avellino would have taken some awesome photos of everyone. And their social media presence, Georgie's social media presence as a State League 3 side, the photos that they put out, the profiles they put out on their players was a massive help to me in terms of understanding the players and making sure I'd done my due diligence on them. And I would say that the social media work that Georgies are doing with their women's program is comparable to what we would see in the top flight. And for anyone who's putting that level of commitment into their women's side of their program they deserve absolutely immense credit for that.
Yeah, well, let's touch on that very, very quickly because yes, they lost 15-0. Yes, we've said that they're 5 leagues below, but let me just give you put that into context. This afternoon, Georgies have played at home, having lost 15-0 on Wednesday evening, playing against second place Avondale this afternoon, and they've gone and beaten them 1-0. So that shows the character that the girls have got to put what must have been really disappointing for them on Wednesday night. To come back and put a result in like that this afternoon says lots about the character of that group of players. Yeah,
100%. And that's that Avondale side. I've called them a few times, spoken to a lot of their players. That is a big team with quality players and big ambitions. So yeah, Georgies are in the hunt for promotion into State League 2, and that deserves to be celebrated.
Awesome, guys. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we return, it's the second part of our show, the press box, and we will have our special guest from the UK. Don't go away, folks. Jess, what we might do is we might actually end this stream because it looks like we've been blocked, unfortunately, by Facebook because of something that we've played tonight. Might have been the Young Socceroos. So we'll block it and then restart.